Hello, everyone. Welcome to another It's a Tech Tip webinar. Today, we're talking about Canva and how we can use Canva to record a podcast. So let me go ahead and switch over to my presentation. And all the its are pretty good at this, so you can definitely contact any one of us, and we will be able to help you out with this at any moment. So I'm going to switch over to this presentation and share my screen here. I'm going to do the audio as well because I want to make sure you hear what I'm recording here. So there I am. I'm sharing my screen. Good to go. Okay, and I'm going to minimize myself over here, so I'm not in this picture. All right, so in the Canva presentation, uh, we have some students here who are happily sharing and probably doing some social media as they're podcasting, because it does kind of happen at the same time. Podcasters are podcasting, taking pictures, uploading to social media, all that great stuff. So today, podcasting in the classroom with Canva EDU. Let's go ahead and get started. Don't forget that all of our courses, sorry, wrong one. This is the one I wanted. Get that out of there. All of our courses and sessions, ITS, it's a Tech Tip webinars, all of that stuff is found inside of our catalog. So tinyurl.com/DLR catalog. You can find the courses for a lot of different products and things that we use in EPISD tools, but you can also find the It's a Tech Tip webinar series so that you can go ahead and register for these. We hold all our recordings on our website at tinyurl.com/DLR So that's our website where we go ahead and host those recordings. And you can find that website by going here as well in the It's a Tech Tip webinar series button there. So let's go ahead and get started. So podcasting has been going on for a long time. It's been around for a while. It started on very simple devices. It was more like a radio recording and on the web. But then as we started getting these handheld devices, we were able to connect to the internet and download these episodes. Now it's a major deal. I know a lot of people that listen to podcasts, whether it's a crime podcast or whether it's something to do with music or interviews or political podcast, horror stories, you name it. There's a ton of podcasts out there, as well as learning podcasts like the one that we're talking about today, whether it has to do with technology or the arts or cooking or anything like that. So podcasting has been around for a while. What we're focusing on is how to use this in the classroom to innovate students and to foster engagement, to enhance their learning and to foster engagement. So you guys can provide students with a platform to not only develop critical communication skills, but also skills in writing, reading, speaking, and listening. Okay, so these skills, these critical communication skills, are very important. And it encourages creativity and collaboration. This is very important because, yes, we could assign this as an individual assignment, but we really want there to be creativity and collaboration so the students can work together to research the information they're going to be talking about, to create those scripts, to produce, to record, to edit, you name it. There are so many things and skills, so many skills that students can learn just from a simple podcast. Okay. Additionally, they can serve as valuable resources for revisiting classroom material. So you as a teacher could podcast about a certain topic that you're covering in history, in science and math, and share the facts so the students can listen to this information. So some of us are oral, some of us are more visual, some of us are a combination, trying different things to get the information across to your students may actually benefit. Okay, so and then they can listen to it whenever they want because it's learning at their own pace. So with Canva EDU, what is it? It is a program. It's online. It's web based, where You can create engaging lesson activities in class or online. There's thousands of templates out there for pretty much any subject, grade, topic, and all these features, these premium features, are free to you and to anybody, to all educators in EPISD, because we have linked with Canva EDU, and now it's part of our single sign-on access through EPISD Plaza ClassLink. If you go there, you should see the Canva logo. Students will see that as well, and once they log in or they click on it, it does the single sign-on, automatically logs them in. So again, introduce new concepts, interview experts. Who are the experts in your classroom? The students. Yes, you're an expert, but you want the students to become the expert, to be able to talk about what they have been learning. So that's very important. And I think you can make learning more dynamic and accessible by providing the supplemental material in a different fashion, in an audio fashion. Okay. It enriches the educational experience, but also prepares students for the digital age. We are 24 years into the 21st century. We should have been doing this 24 years ago, but it's never too late to start. Okay. So let's just talk about a few topics that you could embed. And this is second 9 weeks that I'm talking about. So in kinder, there's an activity, there's a science activity, magnets push and pull. So they can do the activity and then they can record a teacher-led podcast or even a student-led podcast. In this case, it would be teacher-led because it's kinder, where they can talk about the various materials in that lab that they did for pick it up with a magnet, whether it was you were able to pick it up or if you were not, and why they did, why it could be picked up with a magnet and why it couldn't. So because you've been studying this, and then you had this activity, this hands-on activity, then you can have your experts tell you, your student experts tell you why it was able to be picked up with a magnet or why it wasn't. First grade social studies, there's some informational writing on the Aztecs, so the Maya, the Aztecs, and the Inca civilizations. So your students can be the experts after they read all about them. They can write a short script to tell about each of the different civilizations, give a little intro, talk about what they farmed, how they built their cities, and even if they formed governments and how, and then the different religions and societies within those three different civilizations. So that's something you can talk about. Let's skip over to fourth grade. There is a science, and you can see the rest of these, but science on mixtures. And this is a hands-on activity with different types of mixtures where students can create a podcast where they will first explain what is a mixture and what are its properties. Then students can have that discussion. Okay, there's also a fifth grade unit in RLA for Don Quixote. So they read the story about a hopeful knight, and then they can talk about different pieces of that actual story. Who is he? Who is Don Quixote? So some research there, and it's probably already in the student book. Sancho Panza, who is he, and why was he called the loyal sidekick? The windmill adventure, and even some SEL, the importance of friendship and emotions and empathy. Okay, as we look in middle school, then, the age of Jackson, President Andrew Jackson, talking about how, all these topics here. How democratic was he? Why was he labeled the popular president with the common man? What part did he play in the Trail of Tears by having the Cherokee Nation being forced to move? And do you agree or disagree with the actions, right? Who were the Seminole and what was the reason for their strong resistance against being moved? So, a lot to talk about here in this unit as well. High school, Romeo and Juliet, right? The famous Shakespeare tragedy, and talk about each act. They can explain, summarize what is happening and discuss the reasons how the act builds up to the final tragedy of Romeo and Juliet dying. So again, the exposition, the feud and the love at first sight, the secret marriage, why did that have to happen? The tragic turn, the plan, and then the tragic ending, right? So again, access Canva through EPISD Plaza ClassLink. You log in, and you can see the Canva logo right there. And so you click on it and it signs you in. And then you can start a podcast project. So I'm going to actually end my presentation here and actually show you how you can find podcast covers, how you can edit them, how you can go ahead and start recording, and how you can share your recording. So I'm going to end my presentation here. And so I'm going to go ahead and head home on Canva. Okay, so here I am. And the first thing I want to do is search for a podcast cover. So I want a podcast cover and I want to type podcast or podcasting. So it's up to you. I'm going to type podcasting, but you should get the same results no matter what. Before I click enter, I'm going to choose Canva template. And then I can go ahead and press return or enter. And you're going to get a lot of templates. Okay. This is over 10,000 different templates. In elementary, you probably don't want them searching through 10,000 templates. So you can go through here and choose a few that your students can decide on using. From there, you could create the initial template and then assign it to that specific group, this group of students. Okay, so again, what you do is you go through here and you find a template that you like. And I like to keep it simple because I'm not going to use the template that's there, but I may use the background or something like that. But there's always a way to choose it. Matter of fact, this is the one we use for our podcast, and then I can edit. Any of these templates here can be edited. So I like to show a very simple one and then head off, work on that and fix the template the way I want it to be fixed. So I'm going to stick with this. This is a simple one. Hello, podcast. And if I'm happy with this, I'm going to say, you know what, this is the one I want to customize. I'm going to customize this first. In middle school, high school, if you're having them selected, have them selected as a group, but one person is going to select it, and then that team leader or person is going to be in charge of sharing it with the rest of the group. Okay. So again, like I said, everything on here is editable. So even the title. So if I'm going to go ahead and double click on this and say Romeo and Juliet podcast, group 3, Mr. Morales. So that's my class, that's my group. This is the Romeo and Juliet podcast. Okay. Everything, as you can see, as I'm hovering over, I can remove, delete, change, edit, retype. Okay, so maybe I don't need that microphone. Maybe I don't need that sign, that wavelength. And maybe this is going to be Romeo and Juliet podcast. Okay. And if I need to, I can decrease the size of that so that it fits. Or I can just move this a little higher here so that nothing's covered up. And then I can change then say group 4 or group 3 in this case. And then on here I can say Mr. Morales English 1. Okay. And if that's too small, then I can increase the font on that. I can bold. Okay, and then I can go ahead. There you go. And up here, I might change the background. Maybe I don't want this type of gray brownish background. I can click background color, and I can do purple. But I got to make sure that my font, that I can see my font. So again, you can do that, but it's up to you. You can change anything here. Just make sure the font is visible with your new background. Okay, so if it's going to be a darker background, then I may want to change this font to white so that all these fonts can be seen. Okay, and then I may want to find a picture. So I'm going to look in elements, and because we have the Canva EDU, we get all the paid elements. We get everything because of that. So Canva is awesome. They allow us with our educator account to get all the elements, to have full access to everything they give to people that pay for their subscription. So that's really amazing. I hope they keep doing that for ever. But I'm going to type Romeo and Juliet, see what comes out. And oh, okay, so I got a couple of things. And all of this is copyright free, so I can use this however I want. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see these pictures. This probably be the closest thing. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to go ahead and place this right above here. And I don't like the color of that picture. So it's hard to see under this darker background. I can even change the color of the picture. So I'm going to click the color here. I've selected the picture. I'm going to choose white. Well, maybe not white. Something a little, what's a good color here? Definitely not gray. It could be black, right? It could be a dark black. I definitely don't want it to be blue. That's a little easier to see. Now, this is going to be a voice podcast, but we do need to insert a cover like any other podcast. And I'm going to tell you where the sound is actually going to show up here in a bit. Okay. So I have my cover. I've created my cover. The next thing I need to do is as a team leader, I need to duplicate this cover so that I have a slide pretty much for each person. So if there's three people, then I'm thinking maybe I need a narrator at the beginning. Welcome to the Romeo and Juliet podcast kind of deal. Then I also need, um, the slide one. So again, if I'm going based on the different parts of Romeo and Juliet, then I can go ahead and separate that into each slide can be a different act, right? So I'm going to go ahead and hover down here, click the three dots and select duplicate. So maybe I want to do that 4 times because there's 4x. Of course, I have this in my notes. I have created this, we created as a group. Act 1, Jesus, Act 2, Mauricio, Act 3, Jennifer, Act 4, Juanito, whatever it is, right? So I have this information already in my group, and everybody's going to get a different part right here for each of these acts, right? And then this last one, so maybe the last one can be a conclusion or an outro, an ending to the podcast, right? So now that I have my setup and we've all agreed on this, the whole group has agreed on this, and the number of slides that we need for each and everybody to record, now I can share. So I'm the group leader, I'm in charge, and you can see me right here. I'm the group leader. So this is my project right now, but I need to share this out with the rest of the team members. So I'm going to go ahead and share. And I'm just going to add my friends, my colleagues. So I'm going to share this with Herman. I need to make sure it says edit right here because I need them to be able to edit. And I'm going to share this with Julie. Now, the first time you do this, I've shared many things with Herman and Julie, but they're probably doing this for the first time. So it's best that they use the student's email. So let's say I share this with Karen. I know that Karen is KLWright at episd.org. Okay, so I can press enter and that's going to go out to the email. And then I know Chris is CC Sharma at episd.org. And I can go ahead and if it comes up, it comes up. If it doesn't, then you just click the email. And then you want to send a little message. So right now I am testing. I am creating this for a video. No interaction is required. Now your message would be, hey guys, here's the template that I'm sharing with everybody. Remember, these are the slides, the parts that you're going to do. And I go ahead and share. And so in elementary, they're going to everybody's going to get an email, no matter what. In elementary, they may not have access to their email, but if they go into Canva, they're going to get a notification right here. This little bubble right there, that's your notification bubble. And so if they open up Canva and they're on the home page, I'm going to go to home again. And they'll get a notification right here, actually right here in this bell. And when they see that one, that means that something's being, they're being notified of something. They'll click on that and they will see the project that was just shared, which happens to be this one. And when they click on it, it'll open. When they go back home, they're going to actually see it in the recent designs, or they can go to projects and see it under projects, okay? But it'll stay in the recent designs as long as they're working on it. So I'm gonna go back here. And I am ready to begin the process of recording. Now, I have to build a script, right? So I've written out my script, whether it's a Word document. We're going to have a course where we're going to be sharing you all these steps. We're going to give you some templates for scripting, for creating this podcast. That course is going to go live next week. So be on the lookout for that. In the blog for this, we'll give you the link so you can get to that course. But I have to create a script for each one of my parts. So the students can all be in at the same time and not affect each other as long as they stay on their slide. So I need to go ahead and write a script. I wrote it out or I typed it out in a Word document or a Google Doc. Doesn't matter how you do it. But then I'm going to click on notes. For each slide, I can add notes just like I can in PowerPoint and Google Slides and Keynote. But this is going to help me with my scripting so that I can read what I have scripted when I'm recording. So I can say, welcome to our Romeo or to group 3, keep saying 4, group 3's Romeo and Juliet podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mr. Morales, English 1 class. Okay, simple intro. And again, let's say I'm in charge, so I'm going to type the title here, Jesus intro. Then I go to slide 2. I'm going to say Herman, Act 1. And I'm going to say Julie, Act 2. And so on and so forth. And so every person that has been added to this, that this document has been shared to this project, can go ahead and select their slide, and the person that's sharing it could do this ahead of time as well. But you select the slide and you can type your name and then you type your notes. Okay, so that's very simple. That's a way to get ready to begin recording. We're not even at the recording stage. We got to get ready to begin recording. So now I'm going to go ahead and again click on this. But in order for me to begin this recording process, after I've shared it and we've typed out our scripts, I want to select notes again. I want to be in notes. I'm going to start with slide 1 or page 1. And I'm going to click duration because duration is going to show me the playhead right here and the play button. So right now there's nothing being recorded. It's just playing through the slides. Okay. Now I'm not worried about transition or anything because this is not video, this is audio. So I'm just using the same podcast cover for all the audio recordings, the different pieces of this podcast. Okay. Now I'm ready to record. And so in order for me to record, I'm going to click on upload. So there's uploads over here on the left side. And normally this is where we upload files or pictures or videos that we want to add to a page. But we also have the option to record ourselves. So I'm going to click record yourselves. And the first time you do this, it will ask you for permission to use the camera and the microphone. Make sure students click OK on both of those. We're not going to use the camera, but we are going to use the microphone. But you may want to use the camera in another project, so make sure they click OK to both of those. If they click no by mistake, they can always, and I'm in Chrome, they can click these view site information icon, and then they can go ahead and turn it on. They'll have to refresh in order for those to become active, okay? So I'm going to click record myself. I've already done the acceptance of the camera and the microphone, so I'm not going to get that, but you're going to see what happens here. Oh, there it is. Camera's in use. And there I am, and I'm going to turn off the camera. If you don't have an avatar like I do, it's probably just going to show you your initials. You can take the time and have the students create an avatar or upload a picture of themselves. That's not necessary. Their initials is fine. I happen to have an avatar. And then I want to make sure that my microphone is selected. Now it should just pick up the microphone from the device, but if they are using AirPods, like I have AirPods on right now, I could switch over to AirPods. I would have to make sure that I am on the AirPods right here, which I am not, but I could switch over to AirPods and then switch that out. But right now, and this is where it's at, I'm on the MacBook Pro. And as you can see, I am ready to record. I see my level meter here. So I'm going to go record this piece. It's going to give me a 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Group 3's Romeo and Juliet podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mr. Morales' English 1 class. I click I'm done, and I've recorded my first slide, my first page. Since I'm not going to record the other pages, those are up to the rest of the students. I'm not going to go to page 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 because that's going to be up to the other team members to record. So I'm done with my part. When they are done with their piece, their recording piece, they're going to go ahead and click save and exit. Okay. Welcome to Group 3's Romeo and Juliet podcast. So there it is. This podcast is brought to you by Mr. Morales'. So there it is playing. And you're probably saying, wow, that's too big. That icon's too big. The nice part is I don't want to delete this because if I delete this, it gets rid of the recording. I don't want that. But I can minimize this. So I can click and drag and make this small. So there you go. So now when I play this, welcome to Group 3's Romeo and Juliet podcast. It plays my recording. And I want that to play for everybody to have their part and record their piece. But we don't all have to be on the project at the same time. Each student can do it individually when they have time to do so. In the end, we will have a recording. You'll notice that my slide, my page got longer. Well, that's based on the recording. The recording itself was 10.1 seconds long. So it went from 5-second slide to a 10.1 seconds. So as they record, this will the template, the page here will be adjusted in size based on how much they recorded. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's pretty much it. You record all the pieces, and then at the end you can share. But before we do that, I'm going to share this with you, and this might not be something you do from the beginning, from the first time you use this, but you can add music to your recording. Okay, this is something that is in the apps section. So if you go to apps, you can type audio. Even if you type music, you will see audio. So if I type music, I can do AI music. You can as a teacher, and I can, but the students can't. So I would have them type audio, and they will see the audio app. This is part of Canva. So I click audio app, and then it places it down here already. So any apps that you choose, like I have a background app, Magic Media, stuff like that, it just puts it down here for me. And if I want to record, if I want something to match kind of the era, I can say Old English, okay, and see what comes out. So actually, let's type Romeo and Juliet and see what comes out. Let's see, and I'll play this. Okay, that could be. Oh, there you go. So once I find the music that I like, I can drag it, click and drag, and place it underneath. Okay, so there it is. Now, do I have to play it throughout the entire show? I don't. You could leave it as a background music. Welcome to Group 3's Romeo. But if you're hearing, that's too loud, right? So you're like, well, how do I make it softer? How do I reduce the volume of this piece of music? When you click on the music, up here at the top, you have the volume. So I can drop this down to probably a 20 or 10%, right? and then I can have it fade. So if I don't want it to show up throughout the entire podcast, then I can click and drag this. And let's just say I want it for the intro, right? Oh, sorry. Let me go back, kick myself out. Let's just say I want it for the intro. So there it is at the bottom. And I'm just doing it for the intro. But then I'm going to fade it out. So right before the next slide, I can fade this out or fade it in. I can do both. So let's say I do 1.5 seconds. As you can see down here, it starts showing the fade down there. And if I go any higher, it increases the fade or gets rid of the fade, right? So I'm going to do a 1.5 seconds. Again, I've lowered the volume to 20. Let's see how that sounds. Welcome to Group 3's Romeo and Juliet podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mr. Morales' English 1 class. So I faded out. It was a little softer. I think it was just a bit too loud still. I can go ahead and adjust it to maybe 10. And then the other thing I can do is I can have the music in sync with the voice as well. Okay, so I can do beat sync, and let me play that again. Welcome to Group 3's Romeo and Juliet podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mr. Morales' English 1 class. Okay, so that's pretty neat. So I have my music. Again, I have my first slide recording, which was mine, but then I'm waiting for the other students to go ahead and record their piece. Once everybody has recorded their piece, it all depends on what type of, how you're going to share it depends on what kind of device you have. If you have a MacBook, you can download. If you have a MacBook, you can download this as an MP4 and then upload it. What would I recommend putting this? I would recommend putting this in the Schoology media album so that everybody can listen to it. Everybody can, everybody would maybe pick one act. Each group would pick an act instead of doing all 4 acts or 5 acts. Each group would focus on one act and talk about why this act is important to the overall tragic ending, right? How does this get that ball rolling to the climax and the ending of this tragic story, right? So if you have a Mac, you could download it and then upload it as a audio video file pretty much, okay? But it's not going to show any video. It's just going to show that page, right? That podcast cover that you created. If you have Chromebooks, and if there's a mix, it's best to just keep it online. So if you have a mix of devices, Chromebooks, iPads, MacBooks, BYOD with Windows devices, I mean, just a plethora of different devices, then you may want to just share it, publish it online. So let me show you the few different ways. So once I'm done with my entire recording, I can click share and I can download. So when I click download, I can download as an MP4 video. And I want it as an MP4 because the other options are GIFs and image video. So I want the MP4 video. Again, yes, it's going to be a video, but it's only going to have audio because it only has the podcast cover. So I go ahead and download that and save it on a file, on a folder file where I know I'm going to find it so I can upload it to Schoology. The other way to do this is to click share and create a public view link. So I can go ahead and click create a public view link. Okay. And this will only be viewable, so there won't be any editing. I can create that public view link. And in this case, I may want to go ahead and create a discussion, a graded discussion in Schoology, where the students can go ahead and give us a summary of what they talked about or their group name and the students in this group, and then copy paste this link inside of the discussion so that we can all listen to it. So it's a graded discussion, but it's shareable because it is a discussion. Okay, so I'm going to click and open up a new tab and copy this, paste this link in there so you can see how it shows up. So there is the link, and this is what it looks like. Welcome to Group 3's Romeo and Juliet podcast.
This podcast is
Now,
brought
as you
to you
can see,
by
we're
Mr.
hearing the sound, the
Morales' English
music,
One
the
class.
audio recording. When it switches, you can't even, I mean, you can't tell, you can tell because my little picture went away. So that's the only sign that you're
class.
going to get, is that this avatar is going to change. It's going to have the first student's initials, then it's going to have the next student, so on and so forth. But you can't really see a transition of the slide. Okay.
Welcome to
So that's how it looked like as a public link. So again, if you have multiple different kinds of devices and you don't want to deal with, well, my device doesn't download, I don't have any space, et cetera, instead of doing a download, you can just go share and do public view link. Okay. And that is how students would get their podcast out. And that's how you can get your podcast out. So if you created a podcast on a specific lesson, then you can go ahead and share that out and drop that link inside. You can drop it in and add materials and put in a link to that audio recording so that students can listen and learn from what you're sharing. But in this case, we want the students creating this, and we want them to go ahead and become the experts in whatever it is that you are teaching them. So in this case, in the classic novel of Romeo and Juliet, the tragedy, they can go ahead and focus on all the acts, or you can assign an act per group so that each one can talk about how that act, built on the tragedy and the final ending of Romeo and Juliet. Okay. So that is your basic podcasting or podcasting with Canva. Very easy to do. All you need is a device with a microphone and you're good to go. The camera is not important. We turn off the camera and all we do is record the audio. Again, remember that we host all our podcasts on our website. And so I'm just going to go out there so you can see the website. It's our digital learning resources website here. It's tinyurl.com/DLR or you can go to sites.google.com, view EPISD DLR home. Okay, longer link, but either way. And if you go to the It's a Tech Tip webinars page, you will find all the recordings. So this is the first October recording, so it will go above this, but we also have the recordings from September for all the different sessions that we did, and when we started in August for all those different sessions that we did at the beginning of the year. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. Be sure to reach out to your instructional technology specialist if you have any questions or if you wish to have us come in and work with your students so we can show them how to get this done. Thank you for joining us. You all have a great evening.